Hi everyone. Today we have with us Mr. Navin Joshua, founder director of GreenHonchos. Hi Navin.
I
We're just counting days to the new year. So I'm sure lots happening at GreenHonchos, and you are gearing for a new year with new brands. So we are very, very excited to get on a chat with you to just know a little more about what's in store and how are things happening at your end. Uh, so yeah,
Thanks so much for that introduction. Yes, it's exciting to be talking in the last week of this year. It's been a watershed year for a lot of highs and lows on the health and wellness side across the country. You know, in the business side of it, we've all learned the hard way as well as the agile way. Uh, Luckily, we've been in a domain of e-commerce that has actually come in to the rescue in many ways to the retail fraternity. A lot of the brands and enablers like us have spent a lot of time and effort helping each other, trying to figure out the pivoting nature and behavior of the consumer in this dynamic India landscape. What a wonderful opportunity has been set up for us, and we look forward to a lot more growth and success for the e-retail fraternity in the times to come and in the new year.
amazing, Naveen. As usual, a lot of insights coming from the founder, the most wanted founder in the D2C landscape. So yes, lots there for the brand. So without even wasting time, I would start from there, right from that D2C uh, position. So what makes Green Honchos that full stack D2C enabler?
Yeah, I'll just go back a bit in time. In very early days of the company, pretty much 2013, 2014, this is exactly what we wanted to do even then. There were very few takers for the concept of D2C enablement at that time. And, it was a very hard sell for myself, Sumit, the entire management team here. We stuck at it together. We did believe that there was a real need for businesses or brands to partner with enablers who have the expertise in the online domain. There are primarily 2 points of sale in the e-commerce and the e-retail space. One is the online marketplaces, and the other is one's own D2C. The marketplace is fairly cookie cutter. Everyone understood, why bother when, the Amazons and the Mintras and the Flipkarts of the world was doing all the bulk work, the heavyweight lifting, providing great consumer experience. Retailers wanted to take advantage of being a multi-brand outlet within, the marketplaces. So that was a no-brainer. But the hard sell really was to explain to businesses that D2C is coming. Brands will have to have and own their own point of sale and their own customer, like they do even in the offline retail. So it was slow going for us in 2013, 14, 15, 16. And then, traction built. Luckily, at that time, when the madness and the rush wasn't on, it allowed us to develop our capabilities and build our competencies at our pace. And today we are about 200 people handling nearly 100 brands, across fairly diverse domains of the e-commerce tech landscape, which is the platform-based solutions, the digital performance scale solutions. So it's not just tech, but it's also providing them that channel of growth. And last but not the least, it is closing the loop, because in India, most of the problem starts once the post the order. Unlike in other markets where the size of the market isn't that large, customer acquisition is everything. In India, customer acquisition is only half the problem. The profitability and the seamlessness of the experience in such a diverse landscape is an area that we actually love to partner with brands to get that piece right. So there's a consultative framework there, which is where we believe that entire D2C full-stack enabler story comes together for us.
Amazing, Navin. And it's like one of the most exciting journey so far. So obviously now let's just go to the use case. So who do you see as the ideal use case for GreenHonchos?
So yeah, that's a great question. I think these are pretty much 2 or 3 segments, 2 or 3 domains or categories of how we categorize it. One is traditional brands, traditional retail brands. They could be in any category uh, that have had a predominantly offline, consumer base. Their market research intelligence has flown through the decades, and they've built large distribution networks or supply chain networks across a complex offline market. Um, the one big strength they have is brand recall, true customer loyalty, if that's a word that still exists today. But the largest challenge they have is repurposing all of that uh, for their consumer, who over ages has also evolved and become an omni consumer. So that is our sweet spot, where we are able to consult and guide that through. The biggest advantage, though, of offline players is inventory or stock is not a limitation, and therefore scaling them, also is an exciting journey, but a very feasible journey because of that repurposing possibilities. We go in with a framework and are able to mobilize that towards scale fairly quickly. So that is one segment of, let's say, traditional brands. They could be nationalized, they could be regional. The other is your digitally native first brands, your D2C first brands, where there may not be, that kind of a legacy with the brand, but the new age consumer is willing to, try, look at categories like beauty, personal care, FMCG, food and beverage. There are such wonderful new age stories, of brands developing trust, engagement, content, amenability, and even providing great experiences. In fact, giving a run to some of the largest traditional businesses just by being nimble. So that's the other, big segment for us, where we talk about digitally, native D2C brands. So yeah, I mean, these would be clearly 2 segments. We are betting big on brands that want to provide a seamless user experience and have the ability uh, to provide an omni experience to their consumers. They could have either started digitally and then gone, physical for growth, or vice versa, which is the natural progression. Because that's where I think, the cost of customer acquisition, the experience seamlessness, the value of data, the value of retargeting, the customer lifetime value across channels, all becomes, much more engaging and exciting story to thread together for us. So the ideal use cases end up being pretty much in these areas. For GreenHonchos, it just so happened that a lot of our strengths are built in categories like fashion, lifestyle, footwear, home, accessories, and that's how it's progressed. But now we've created, with the market really, growing across segments. So have we increased our capabilities in all these other specialty domains too.
Amazing. So yeah, you were talking about cost and ROI. So my next question is obviously in that direction. So in e-commerce, what would you consider as a good ROI marketing spend for that
Uh, I'd love to answer that question more directly, but unfortunately, there are enough of variables out there, where again, since we spend, over 150 crores of digital ad spend a year. So across the brands we serve, over 1,000 CR of GMV has flowed through us in the last couple of years each. So with that data size, I can say something fairly weird, that the ROAS, or as they call it, instead of an ROI, the return on ad spend, because a lot of the revenue is generated through new customer acquisition because it's a new market. So ROI is very similar to ROAS, return on investment, very similar to return on ad spend. Anywhere between 3x to 13x is the landscape at which we, through that data set, have operated. What are the filters that where do brands lie between that 3x and 13x? Allow me a few minutes to explain that. I'd like to elaborate there. So if it is a nationalized brand or an international brand of reach, recall, large offline presence, a good social following, good proof of the product, if it has mass appeal, if it's in categories that have a higher propensity of repeat purchase, the ROIs tend to be much higher. Yeah. Then coming to the average selling price of the item, both ends of the spectrum work. If the ticket size is small, the conversions are typically higher. But if the ASPs or the basket sizes are large, then as well, the ROIs could be high because you've got a higher disposable cost of acquisition budget to be able to close the sale. And then, apart from the categories, there are a lot of marketing input drivers through the funnel. One is, what they call as cost per impressions, which is a market figure. It's a demand and supply figure. At certain points, as we speak right now, the last week of December, the entire market's in pretty much EOSS, or end of season sale. There are discounts all over, demand is high, even ad inventory is at a shortage. So your cost per impressions are high. We foresee that going low in a while, which would increase ROI and lower cost of marketing. Similarly, I do believe that the website itself, from the visual merchandise perspective, ultimately marketing can only bring the right consumer to the right place. I think technology plays a huge role. This is where I think one of our key expertise areas are. I don't call it marketing separately. I don't call it tech separately. MarTech is the new nomenclature of that. It's a 50-50. Therefore, we don't look at it from one angle because there are many rainy days in marketing, and tech holds the fort in those rainy days with all the variabilities. So whether it is your progressive web app, if it's the mobile friendliness, if it's the time taken to load, on the other hand, it is also the category management. Let's say if it's autumn winter now, what's showing up, what's the agility on the website, even things like the curation of availability, popularity, whether if it's fashion, then cut sizes, what's the funnel and what's the drip at all stages of the funnel. There are businesses, even new age businesses, that do the simple things really well and end up being much more nimble to scale. So there are small pieces, but there are many multiple such small pieces that add up towards generating that true ROI for the business. Last but not the least, we all hear of crazy returns or COD refusals, and these are all post the marketing dollars having gone in. So that is which I'd call as net ROI. Gross ROI or GMV is still only a part of it. how do businesses really streamline that drip between gross to net is where all the chance of profitability really lies in the India e-commerce scenario.
So you touched upon technology, and that's what our focus is next. So what is headless commerce for that matter, and how does it give the tech edge in the market?
Sure. So, as GreenHonchos, we've been a full stack tech provider to and popular CMS, carts like Shopify, Magento, WooCommerce. These are all practices that we've had in-house for nearly a decade now. So we've got a fairly large set or body of work in those areas to know the value that each of them have. They're all great tools, and as well as the limitations. I think they've been built at a time and in an architecture environment that was that was at a different time and and for a different market, because they're all global products. Uh, when we saw some of these limitations, it was about 2017, 18, when the team here really started creating what we'd call as headless modules. Whether it was your cart or whether it was your checkout, whether it was your search module, whether it was your fraud detection, whether it was returns automation, whether it is the PIM or the product information management system itself. And we started hot swapping them with on those existing CMS platforms if there were any challenges or limitations. And over the course of a couple of years, when we built these 7, 8, modules in a service-oriented architecture, we realized that it made sense to piece it all together in a true headless environment, where the service-oriented architecture ensured that each module spoke to each other in an absolute API-driven environment. The performance of the new age architecture was significantly higher in terms of being able to even measure it with the best-in-class tech that's available in the country. For commerce, we know Amazon would be right up there. We know Myntra's right up there. We were able to evaluate that against, do all the stress testing, look at how the product that we've eventually named as KartmaX, which has been out in the market. Leading brands have been using KartmaX. We do over 25, 30,000 orders a day on the headless commerce platform, which is a testament of the scale of the product and the architecture that we feel is built to scale in the India e-commerce scenario and eventually global as well. It came up as a enterprise product, but in our next release, we'll also be releasing a full DIY SaaS product as well, which is another version of the headless commerce product.
Amazing. So we are talking about a lot of technology and infrastructure and architecture here. So, but the basic idea of migrating into that tech platform. So, how challenging or how easy is the transition for that matter?
I think over time, a lot of the ecosystem and our partners, etc., have done a fairly good job in making tech a little bit less of a black box. It's a very open environment. The ecosystem is absolutely buzzing. Great solutions from our partners are out there, and each of them have openly integrated, keeping the customer or the client at the fore, which is very important. Not being close-chested. That's what has enabled brands leverage the best and not get stuck with one big piece of tech. I'll try and give some examples of how brands should, not have endless nightmares or headaches in thinking of adopting a new age tech that might look good, but might seem worrisome just for a lack of understanding of the pains of, let's say, movement or what have you. And especially when it's headless, as a solution, you don't really even need to do away with the current tech. You can even do away with it in very small parts and still keep the core as the same, because a lot of businesses have deep integrations in their backends. They have ERPs, they have POS systems, and they don't want to change it for anything. That change is truly not required in a headless environment. And the market has a lot more to learn about that in the India context. We will also do our bit, to provide our opinion pieces, as well as more white paper and more knowledge series around headless commerce. And since KartmaX, our product is built on that, so it serves many purposes. See, when you talk about an e-commerce or a platform on the front end or even the back end, the design or the UI, the UX, the brand briefing guidelines anyway belongs to the brand itself. So that's their own IP. It's easy to lift and shift, and make sense to lift and shift to lighter front end tech on them. So there is Vue.js, there's Nuts, that's those are the software's stack that we use. On the other hand, the catalog itself, the digital catalog, is again something that belongs to the brand. That same catalog is going to marketplaces as well. Everyone has a catalog that is exposed on marketplaces. So there's no loss, of that, data or information anyway. Order data, customer data belongs to the brand, very easily exportable. Uh, your organic links, your SEO, again, Google has made it easier along the way. You could absolutely not lose any organic traffic, which is one big concern that a brand has when I move platform. What happens to my organic traffic, especially if it's been on there for a while, seeded in or indexed. So again, no challenge there. So if you look at it, a good team should be able to fairly easily move you to a better solution if that problem is solved with a new solution without any quote unquote fear of loss due to migration between tech platforms. The order management system, again, in the back end, the payment gateways, the logistics partners, they're all independent pieces that are integratable with the the e-commerce platform front end. So we sit in the middle of it. We do that for a living, and therefore it might sound a lot more easier, but it comes only out of knowing it and being able to do it repeatedly. I think businesses and brands should stop worrying about any loss due to transition or migration.
Amazing, amazing. So you've already spoke about GreenHonchos, the edge that it gives to the D2C landscape. So in just a few sentences, probably I'll make it a little tougher for you. And if in a sentence or so you have to say what's that one thing or that few things that kind of makes you stand out amongst your competitors when it comes to facing the D2C, how would you say that?
I think, see, there's a lot of noise around D2C enablement. I think everyone's vying for that pole position. I feel because of the longevity and the fact that, we've been delivering use cases of scale for a while now. We have built capability at a time and scaled at a time when we could do it along with processes rather than chase the market and be behind it. Capability building, the strength of the team, the tech and automation layer that we have that makes it predictable and scalable. We are very confident. We've grown 300% nearly in the last 18 months. We have a further aggressive 300%. Our capacity planning, our team, and our tech/automation layer behind to be able to scale would be what doesn't give us sleepless nights at this point.
Amazing. So nothing better to kind of wind up the interview rather than just like future gazing. So yeah, as we step into 2022, I would want to know what are your future plans for GreenHonchos going forward from here?
So growth is obviously the theme. Since we've been able to establish a good body of work, the proof of concepts are in place. We have scaled. The tech landscape we absolutely want to explore. We do believe that we have a superior solution. We will be investing further because it's a journey and roadmap. Managing or partnering with a larger cross section of brands than we do now. We want to, onboard at least another 200 brands in this year. We are well on our way as the year has started. So that again is a goal that we have. We've got it chartered down to the category, to the team. We want to go with a much more data-driven, insight-driven, analytical approach of tools and tech and automation, as I keep saying, so that the strength of the team is that from our past, the management team has worked together for a couple of decades each. We have scaled successful businesses in the past. The time is right, and we are fairly confident we will be able to do that. And we want to be associated with successful creation of at least 10 to 15, 100 crore brands in the online domain through our partnering in this coming year itself.
Amazing, Navin. All the best to you on that note, and wish you a happy new year in advance. So,
thanks. It was wonderful catching up with you guys. Have a great end of the year and fantastic start to the new one.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
See you soon, and thanks. Yeah.